Thank you for joining us today on What's Up Prince William for Community Conversations. Today I have Rose Powers, Executive Director of StreetLight Community Outreach Ministries. Thank you very much for being on our show today.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Tell me what StreetLight Community Outreach Ministries is about.
Okay, StreetLight Community Outreach Ministries is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were established to help the poor and the homeless in the Prince William County area. So we're all about feeding the hungry and housing the homeless. We currently have 4 outreach programs. One is a food pantry. We have an outreach dinner for the homeless once a week. This is a fellowship dinner. We offer a lavish buffet dinner each week. We have social workers who attend this event to connect the homeless with mainstream services. It's just a wonderful fellowship for a place where the homeless can come, they can feel accepted, a place where they can belong. Another thing we do is our homeless prevention program, where we help with financial assistance for things like rent evictions, utility cutoffs. We do this in order to keep people housed, to prevent them from losing their homes. And finally, we offer permanent supportive housing for homeless adults without children. Most of our clients are either medically fragile or disabled, or they are chronically homeless. So we currently have 29 supportive housing units in which people can live and begin the process of rebuilding their lives. One thing that is unique with this program is that we also offer in-home respite care for those clients who are medically fragile. It is alarming to realize that about 30% of the people living in the woods today are actually medically fragile. They have health conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, even cancer. We actually took one gentleman in to one of our houses, and these are group houses of the same sex. Each of our clients get their own bedroom, but we took this one gentleman in. He had worked all his life. He was an electrician, and his kidneys failed. So he had to be hospitalized. He was in the hospital for 2 months. They realized he would never be able to work again, so they pushed through his disability benefits, but they were less than $1,000 per month. He lost everything, and he ended up living behind a 7-Eleven, and 3 days a week he was going for dialysis treatments.
Oh my goodness.
So he would go back and forth after the dialysis treatments. He would go back to his little spot behind the 7-Eleven and try to recuperate. So he's doing very well now in our program and really working on managing his health.
Oh, that's great. That's good. So we recently had a development behind Bungalow Ale House on Prince William Parkway. How was your organization involved with helping the homeless there?
Well, we are very involved in helping with the unsheltered homeless, or otherwise known as the chronically homeless, and we were very involved with this crisis situation as well. We were able to help house 10 of the people living in that Bungalow Ale campsite. And they're actually 5 couples, so they are now safely housed. We provided either first month's rent or rental deposit money, whichever was required to get them into permanent housing. We actually worked with many of them. We actually transitioned 4 of them to long-term recovery programs because they needed to really take that first step because their alcoholism was so severe that in order to maintain housing, they really needed to get free of the alcohol. So it does take quite a lot of work building that relationship first, then they begin to trust you, then they start making those hard decisions about entering into these programs to get their life turned around.
Do you run into any working homeless?
Many of the homeless work, but the problem is many of them are unskilled. So they're working minimum wage jobs, and they very often do not get a lot of hours. They don't get full-time hours, but they do work, and they work hard, but they just don't make enough. They don't make a livable wage. They can't afford rent anywhere here in Prince William County. There's very little affordable housing here in Prince William County for minimum wage workers.
So how did the organization get developed out of the Pathway Vineyard Church?
Well, StreetLight actually evolved out of Pathway Vineyard Church. Years ago, we moved into a shopping center. We took the anchor store space in that shopping center, and it turned out we were surrounded by a wooded area. And we found out very quickly that there were homeless people camped out in that wooded area. So there was a young man, he was schizophrenic. He used to sit on our front steps, and he was homeless. So when I would leave work at night, I would say goodnight to this guy. His name is Mickey, and I would know full well that when I came back in the morning, he would be still sitting on those concrete steps. And he liked the steps because there was an awning over the building, and so it kept him dry. But I started looking for little ways to help him, bringing him food, and I knew nothing about homelessness at that point. Mm-hmm. But we just started looking for ways to help him as well as the others that were living behind our church, and we just wanted to bring them in and let them be part of our fellowship. So as we did that, we started developing other programs, and then eventually in 2004 we incorporated and separately from the church. But the church today still provides all of our overhead. They provide our office space, our meeting space. They provide a pantry shed for us, for our food pantry. They even provide all of our overhead for utilities, including the internet service. So they've been very, very helpful.
You talked about the homeless prevention program, so we've gone into a little more detail. What is the homeless prevention program through your group?
Well, the homeless prevention program is financial assistance that we provide to prevent rent evictions so that people do not lose their homes. And we also help with utility costs, because that is a huge factor too. We don't, sometimes people have to choose between paying their rent or their utilities. So by helping with that one of those bills, we can help them keep their housing. We also pay for hotel rooms for families that are literally homeless, so that the children don't have to sleep in a car or even on the streets. So last year we spent over $10,000 on families who needed hotel rooms to bridge that gap between the time that they had to wait to get into emergency shelter.
So that's very interesting, because you don't necessarily hear about the families being homeless, sleeping in the car. What do you see as about the average transition time between your group helping them maybe with a hotel room till they're able to get into a shelter? What kind of time frame do you see there?
It can be about 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. So that's a long time to be on the street.
It is. And fortunately, with a lot of the families, they have income, but to stay in a hotel every night is very expensive. So what we are able to do is bridge that gap. Just to keep them in that hotel, to reduce the trauma that the children may be experiencing, as well as the adults. And it also helps them to maintain their job if they do have a job.
Very good. So have you seen more of an increase of actually family homelessness compared to, most of the time when you think of homeless, it's an individual. Have you seen more families over the past couple of years?
No, I haven't seen more families, but I really don't see a real reduction in the number of families that are homeless. Well, I take that back. I've seen some increase with families, but the adult homeless population has really mushroomed, especially since 2008.
Okay.
So it was in 2008 when it really became a crisis, and people were losing their jobs. We have worked with some people, men or women, who are out there in the woods now, who worked all their lives, and they lost everything because they lost their jobs in 2008 and they just could not recoup.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like the organization that you have is doing a great service to the community, and really do appreciate everything that you do. We'd like to have you back on the show here in the near future, showing a little bit more of your organization. And thank you very much for being on our show today.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for Community Conversations on What's Up Prince William.